Hello. Thank you everyone for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you're calling in from. Today, I'm super excited to have our webinar session focused on how Countsy cracked the code for client expansion. While we're waiting for a few more folks to join in, please enjoy this little clip that we put together.
Just replied to 1,000 customer emails, Gene.
Nice work, Larry. Have some coffee.
I didn't even read them, Gene.
Nice work, Larry. Have some coffee.
I didn't write my responses either, Gene.
Nice work, Larry. Have some coffee.
I use the same template for all of them, Gene.
Nice work, Larry. Have some coffee.
Amazing. Hopefully you guys got a good laugh out of that. So before I hand this over to Mairtini and Jazz, a couple of housekeeping items from myself. Thank you all for joining today. In just a couple short moments, I'll be handing this over to Mairtini and Jazz. But in the meantime, a friendly reminder, if you have any questions, reactions, questions that you want to throw in, feel free to put that into the chat. And then at the very end, based on how much time we have left, would love to address any questions that come through. But for the time being, I'm going to hand this over to Jazz.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jasmine Williams. I'm a customer success enthusiast and have worked in the technology space for 10 years, scaling high-performing customer success teams. I recently joined Front as the head of customer success. So Front's technology serves as the communication hub for building relationships at scale. For businesses that want to differentiate on relationships, your communication strategy can unlock new avenues for client expansion and retention. I'm thrilled to be here with Mairtini, who is the founder of Countsy and Mairtini's predecessor firm. Countsy provides outsourced finance, accounting, and HR services for venture-backed startups. Today, we're going to learn more about how Countsy is paving the way as a model for client communication in the back office space and those positive outcomes. We'll hear their perspective on ways to optimize and think about communication to drive greater relationships and ultimately greater results. So welcome, Mairtini. Thanks for joining us today. For starters, can you tell listeners about yourself and a bit more about Countsy?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Jazz and Front. We've been partners with Front for many years and we're super excited to be here. So thank you. So I'm here representing Countsy, and we outsource accounting, finance, and HR for startups. We work with venture-backed companies. That's our sole focus. And from point of view of, we work with hundreds and hundreds of companies on a daily basis. So you can imagine, like, just specific to this webinar, communication is really key because we have a couple of hundred people communicating with hundreds of clients on a daily basis. And we're not in front of each other. We're not in the same room. So it's really important to us that we're able to communicate effectively. Our business has been growing, for the last couple of years consecutively, week over week. And there's just a lot of venture-backed companies out there, despite all the doom and gloom we're hearing this week and last week. We're very bullish about the industry.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. So let's dive in. And the first kind of question that I have that I want to talk about with you are some of the trends that's happening in the back office space. What are some of the key challenges that impacts a firm's communication strategy from your perspective?
Well, I think a lot of it is volume, right? I mean, there's so much volume that happens in back office. I mean, when you think about, if we were just working with one company, every single thing that happens in their back office, all their invoices, all of their customer invoices, all of their accounts payable invoices, all the company credit card, all the different questions around employees and payroll and how do we do this and how do we do that? There's just so much volume that from a communication perspective, it's really hard to manage that kind of volume. So you have to have a way to organize it and tag it and make sure it's going to the right people and being acted on appropriately. So I think that's the biggest challenge from a back office perspective. And I think one of the things about Front is that when I first met with Matilda, the founder of Front, I remember we were talking about email. And at one point there was this sort of something happening in the industry around, was email going away? And she was very much, email is not going away. And I felt exactly the same way. You can't do what we do in, not to mention another, but like a Slack channel or some sort of a Google Doc. You do need to have a back and forth style of communication that is a record and is a point in time and allows people to like express themselves in an expansive way. So I do think that from that perspective, like email and technology improvements around email are super important to the back office. Another thing that I think is happening in the back office is obviously we've just come out of 3 years of a pandemic, or 2.5 years, and it looks like we're heading into another half a year. And just, I know everyone's talking about that, but hybrid and remote office work. At Countsy, we were so prepared on day one of pandemic when that lockdown happened. We were already using an entirely cloud-based suite of tools. We were already using Front. So our business didn't have really any interruption at all. So I do think that as that remote hybrid work expands and continues to expand, and people start hiring people all over the world, just the ability to have a really robust communication protocol and a communication tool is just super important. And I know for us that we really did attribute our success, to use that word, and lots of people were successful or grew during pandemic, but how do we measure success? We measure success that every client's bill still got paid, every client's payroll still got run, every client's book still got closed. We were able to still communicate with our clients. I would say if you asked any of our clients, did they notice even a blip? I would say they didn't. And that's a huge testament obviously to our tools, but I have to also give a shout out to the Countsy team, because everybody showed up day one of lockdown, ready to work in their kitchens on the same environment we had while we were in the office.
I love that response. Like, you can't have conversations in a vacuum, right? You have to meet your customers, your clients where they are. And I think that's a lot of what you're describing in the conversation that you had with Mathilde. So lay it out for us. What role does client retention and expansion tend to play in a firm's overall strategy today? And what's at risk for firms that aren't investing in these areas?
Sure. Like, what we do is we outsource accounting, finance, and HR for venture-backed companies. They come to us when they're really small. And, at the end of the day, we are running a business here. We do want to be profitable and we do want to grow. So it isn't just, we could take on 100 small companies today. And if we lost them within 6 months and they moved on to another firm, that would be, that wouldn't really serve us. Our whole goal with clients is that we start with them when they're small, we put them onto a scalable infrastructure, and we grow with them. But you're only going to grow with a client that wants you to be working with them. Clients, we always say, like, we want to be working with clients that want to work with us, and clients need to want to work with us. Clients need to be seen that we're able to keep up with their demands, that we're able to scale with them, that the quality of our service is really good. Because I would say we have a very sticky service in that clients stay with us for multiple years. Like, when we start with a client today, we better all like each other, because we're going to be talking to each other again in 5 years' time, more than likely. I mean, there are obviously times when clients scale faster and they move away faster, but this is a multi-year relationship. So it's super important for us that we're expanding with clients, that we're retaining clients. And so I do think that our tool set, and that Front being one of them, is super important to that.
Yeah. And I think a key part of what you're saying too around, that kind of ties back to client retention and expansion is those multi-year deals. So really making sure that your customer is kind of fully bought in and is ready to go on that journey with you, which it sounds like you guys are doing at Countsy.
And one thing I should say about that is, you mentioned the word multi-year deals. We don't lock people in actually at Countsy. We want to keep clients that want to stay with us. We don't want to have a client that doesn't want to be here. So for us, it's very much, we're sort of eating our own dog food in that we are a fairly month-to-month type relationship. And if it isn't working, everyone can go their separate ways. But we retain clients, we like to think, because we're doing a great job.
I think that's a really interesting point that you made about, not having customers commit to a longer standing contract or a longer standing agreement. It's counterintuitive to where we see the market going. There's a lot of companies that are locking in multi-year deals with their customers. And so I'm curious, what would you say is Countsy's recipe for success in doing that and getting customers to stay and grow with you?
Sure. That's a good point. And I think from a business perspective, it sort of depends on your culture and on what your core set of values are. I never want to have a client that doesn't want to be here. I never want to have one of my consultants pick up the phone and grit their teeth to a client that isn't being nice to us or professional to us, or doesn't just want to be working with us. So that's really kind of a culture thing here. That, I know I said it before, but we want to work with clients that want to work with us, and we really mean that. And we have to earn that too, though. That isn't just, oh, you need to like us. We have to earn that every day. I've regularly said, no matter who, I do it myself. I mean, I act as a CFO on some of our clients too. Every morning when you're in our business, you have to prove your worth every day. You never get to rest on your laurels. And I've always had that opinion about my career and about our firm and about just the way I interact on a daily basis with people and the way I want Countsy folks to interact with people. There's no such thing as, even though we have a good reputation. It's so easy to ruin a reputation. We all know that, right, in today's world. So we want to earn it every day. So I think that's just kind of our core culture and our core value. So that's why I have never tried to sort of lock people in. I just don't believe in that. I sort of believe in, we want you to work with us. We want to work with you. And if this is all working, it's going to be great. If it's not, let's all move on.
So there's so much talk of automation and AI coming in to shake up the accounting function. Where do you see technology having the most impact, and where do you see it falling short?
The accounting landscape, the technology landscape around the accounting function is changing dramatically and has changed dramatically in the last 5 years. Actually, I would say if you go back through 20 years, every 5 years, there's some major changes. So anyone who isn't keeping up with technology just isn't paying attention, like you really do have to. I think that automation is amazing around lower level tasks, around stuff that is repetitive and has to be done accurately and detailed. And there's lots of automation that's coming to the fore now around, coding invoices or corporate credit cards. These new systems, Brex and Ramp, are two examples that are air-based that allow you to, the purchase happens on the credit card, it gets automatically coded and loaded into the GL. I mean, at Countsys, our goal has always been to not touch anything that a machine can do or that can be done by some sort of AI. We're not looking to build clients for time that could be done through automation. So I do think there's a lot happening in automation that's going to have some good outcomes, right? It's going to make things more accurate. It's going to make them more timely. It's going to have things hit the GL more regularly. No such thing anymore as having to wait till the end of the month to load everything in. And that's great. That's great for everybody. It's great for us. It's great for our clients to get a much more real-time view of their numbers. But where are the shortfalls around that? You can't expect AI to show up at a board meeting and present a set of financial plans. That's just not realistic, right? So I do think I've kind of regularly said that those sort of more transactional roles are going to become more analytical and review roles. Mm-hmm. And those more senior roles are going to really stay very much the way they are now, but relying on more accurate and deep data.
Yeah, that's great philosophy. And I totally agree. For every business problem, there are so many SaaS solutions. But one problem that no technology can solve, in my opinion, is building for truly personal customer relationships. I'm talking about the kind of relationships that make customers loyal to brands and more complex. And they are rooted in intangibles like empathy and compassion. And I think that's a lot of what you're describing. All right, so let's dive deeper into what you said around the human touch in client relationships. Sometimes it takes, all it takes is one conversation to retain or lose a client's business. And you said a lot of that. How do you distinguish between good enough versus best in class communication? And what has Countsy done to build its reputation around the latter?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the number one thing I hear from clients who come to us, if they're coming from another firm, is that their lack of responsiveness. And I always feel sad for those firms, actually, because it's really hard to be responsive all the time in real time. And so we kind of talk about our culture is to get back to people timely. Listen, we're not responding to people's emails within 5 minutes every time, but we really try to use tools that allow us to be more communicative. Because I do think that ability for clients to know that we heard them, that we're out here, and that we're going to work on what the task they've sent us or on the email they've sent us is super important. In the old days, we were right in front of people, and we're not right in front of people anymore. And it can feel, I think, sometimes it can feel like you're sending emails into the void. So we really want clients not to feel that. We want them to know that if they send us an email, they're going to get a response. We kind of say within 24 hours, but more often than not, it's within the same business day. And so our ability to use Front allows us to do that because we're getting emails, we're tagging them. Like one of the things you'll find is that if a client sends an email, or if anybody sends an email to 5 people, oh, who's going to respond to that email? Often the email doesn't get responded to until somebody thinks, oh gosh, I picked up the hot potato, I better respond. Whereas when we're using Front, we see an email come in and it can get tagged or assigned to somebody. Let's just say, just an example of business process, comes in and it's an AP invoice. We'll tag it as AP and it'll get assigned to the person who processes AP. And so they know that they need to respond to it. And it's not like 4 people are thinking, oh, should I get back to that? Has anyone gotten back to that? So using the right tools allows you to be more communicative and to really build a relationship with a client of trust and for them to know someone's hearing them. What do people want? People want to be heard and they want to feel like they're being heard. So that's just human nature, right? So I think that's really a big thing for us around client communication. It's super important that we are communicating and that we're doing it in a respectful and professional way and that they're hearing from us.
Yeah, you're speaking my love language. So can you walk us through how the teams use Front and how it's modernized the way you collaborate and communicate at Countsy?
Sure. I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but we're an Outlook shop, we're a Windows shop, we're not an Apple shop, which is fine because a lot of accountants are on the Windows platform and we love it. We were using Outlook and we used to use distribution lists. So we have a client, think about we have hundreds of clients, right? And lots of different people working behind the scenes on those clients. So we had distribution lists and it worked effectively. A distribution list for a client came into the 4 people who worked on that account's inbox. But that they all saw it separately in their separate inboxes, right? And then they had to kind of communicate whether that was emails back and forth to say who's working on this, who's following up on this. So with Front, we set up an inbox for the client, one for accounting, one for human resources. We let the client know what the alias name is. It's typically client name at countsy.com. We say, send all of your emails to that, send all of your requests and emails to that one email address, and someone will get back to you. So we have just found that the distribution list was just getting unwieldy by the time, like we have something like, I don't know, 7, 8, 900, maybe more channels in Front, right? Or email inboxes in front. You think about trying to manage all of that. The other thing we found was that with distribution lists is that if we brought a new person onto the account, they missed all the history, right? So they show up on Monday morning, get assigned to the account, and they start seeing all the new emails, but there's no way for them to see the old emails. And that we did get feedback from clients that they felt people just didn't have the history or the perspective on the account. Whereas Front allows them to go back through the email. If they get an email on Monday and a client is referencing an email from last week, they can just go back and look at the email from last week. So it allows us to have much more color and perspective around the client and all of the communications we've had with the client. I actually say to people, the people who manage accounts here, to get in and out of the Front inbox regularly, just to get the tone of the account, to get the tone, if the client sounds happy, if our team sound like they're being responsive, what's the tone on the account? You can actually get that pretty quickly by running through a Front inbox. So it even allows us from a client management perspective, back to that point of keeping clients for longer, to really be alerted to clients where there's a problem. And sometimes there are problems and we want to address them, whether that's on the client side or our side.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a great story. And I think one of the themes there is continuity and really making sure that, again, gathering around the customer and providing that real-time feedback, response, and getting them what they need.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Front, what were some of the immediate results as well as long-term business improvements that Countsy was able to achieve?
Well, immediate results were, it just felt more organized. That we just suddenly had a much more organized way of communicating with clients. It felt more organized around the way we were able to tag things. And I think the teams felt more in control because startups are chaotic. And like when you're in a super chaotic environment, something has to bring order to it. So I sort of think of something as like a cyclone and then everything just ends up sort of in one place. So I do think that an immediate result for us was we felt more organized. We felt more informed. We felt more on top of our clients, which is super important. I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Well, the second part of the question was really getting into what was some of the business improvements that Countsy was able to achieve.
Yeah, and I think we just got better. And it's an intangible thing, right? But I think we just got better at responding to clients, about making sure that we got the tasks they were sending to us processed on time. I think we just got better. And I feel that when we hire new people now and we're training them on Front, it's just a lot easier for us to onboard employees. Instead of throwing them out into the wilderness and saying, oh, you'll get an email in your inbox, they know they can go to their Front. They know they can go to just their clients' inboxes and feel they're seeing a full view of everything. Because one of the hard things about what we do is that you have multiple clients. So if you're managing, say, for example, 10 clients and you're doing it in Outlook, and this is not a diss on Outlook because it's a great product, but if you're doing it on Outlook, you have to take the email, put it into the right folder. You have to organize it. Whereas now Front organizes it. And I'm one of those people that has 55,000 emails in my inbox in Outlook. I don't organize things. So I'm sure that's the same with our team. Some people like that to be coding stuff and putting them into folders. Some people don't. But we can't rely on people's personal work style. Now we can rely on a system to do that organization for us.
Yep. Love that story as well. And it's also very similar to how we use Front at Front, which is no surprise, and how we onboard our new team members, to how we collaborate within our respective disciplines and even across disciplines. So what are Countsy's top priorities when it comes to client relationships over the next few years?
Well, I don't think it has changed. We talked a little bit more about our core values. Listen, we come to work every day to serve people. That's really true. Like, we're here because we want to work with startups. We think it's super fun to be working with companies that change the world. So we just want to work with more of them. I just had a couple of calls this week with clients, and every time I put down the phone, I was like, oh my gosh, those guys are building a robot. Oh my gosh, that's a drone company, or this is a SaaS company that's hitting this really interesting demographic. It's just super interesting and it's fun. Yeah. So I would say, we want to grow just like every company. Like, we're an organization that wants to grow, and we're going to grow by having a fantastic professional team that are able to service our clients. So that's really kind of our from a strategy perspective. We don't see ourselves moving outside of the venture-backed tech and life science companies. There's lots of them, and those companies have a real need for the fractional quality service we provide. So from that perspective, we want to just keep doing what we're doing.
So Mairtini, why don't you tell me what else sets Countsy apart?
One thing I really wanted to make sure to reiterate is we have an amazing team here. And nothing would be happening at Countsy if all of the people who work here didn't come to work every day with the same attitude of wanting to help clients and to do a good job. Like, we've been really lucky to attract and retain some amazing professionals, and we hire people on a regular basis, and those people are amazing professionals. And I just really, one of the things that I love every day, I often say I get into my car every day and I love going to work, because I still actually come into the office. I love going to work, not just because I get to work with these amazing companies and startups that are changing the world, but also because I get to work with some amazing professionals that support me, that support our clients, that support each other. And that's just really important to me.
Yeah, it's people that make the culture.
It really is. It really is.
So before we close out the conversation, any final words of wisdom, advice for other outsourced accounting firms on communication best practices or learnings that you'd like to share from your own experience?
I just think you have to be yourself when you come to the office. And so we kind of talk to people when they join us about communication styles. I mean, different people are going to communicate differently, but you do have to have some level of professional bar around it. So I think if you're starting out in this business, like I say, the one piece of feedback I hear regularly is responsiveness. And I think that's not in the nature of a lot of the more, to use a term, old-fashioned or the older sort of firms that are more, the cadence of their work tended to be annual around tax returns or monthly around closes. We don't see it that way. We see it as we want to be in it, in the middle of it every single day. So I think it's a little bit of a culture shift there on the way you approach your clients. And I think just communicate. I think we all believe that, right? There's certainly a possibility of where you can communicate too much, and maybe I'm talking too much right now, but it's important to communicate and to make sure that clients are feeling heard, and that you're being heard too. We do have clients that are not responsive at all, and that's very frustrating. So we kind of talk to clients about being partners with us and how we can't do our job unless we're communicating properly with you.
Yeah, mutual accountability.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a few questions that came from listeners I'd love to answer. The first question is, how do you ensure a client-first mindset within your team?
Gosh, it definitely comes from the top. That's one of those tone of the top things. We are super focused on our clients. That's not to say clients can do no wrong. Clients can do wrong. And if clients do wrong, we hold them accountable. But we really want to approach clients with a service-first culture. We're here to do the job they've asked us to do. They're paying us to do that job. We want to do it really well. We want to do it with a high quality bar. So I do think that to be in this industry and to be in this business, you kind of have to want to come to work every day and get the job done and serve clients and meet their deadlines and meet their requirements. So I think that is I think we've been successful at Countsy at doing that, but I've been working as a consultant for 30 years. And so I think certainly that's tone at the top. And a lot of our people have come up through professional services, and that's just what we do. It's in our DNA.
Yes, I think that's actually a great layup into the next question that we were asked. Any challenges that you've encountered dealing with difficult clients?
Sure. It's really hard, right? Because we work with super driven, high energy, very demanding people. And I've tended to talk to our team about differentiating between someone that's demanding and someone that's being rude. And so We have zero tolerance for rude. We have all kinds of tolerance for someone who's super demanding, just wants to set deadlines and wants to get the job done. So I do think it is important. I mean, we're super supportive of our consultants because frankly, there are times when they feel a bit beaten down because somebody's never happy. So I and my team will regularly get involved with clients and talk about how, yes, we're here to do a service for you. And yes, you do pay us, but we also do want to be working with clients, again, that want to work with us and that show us they want to work with us. A little bit of appreciation. You would be amazed at how appreciative our team are when a client says, you're doing a great job. It's also fine for a client to say you're not doing a great job. And then we are all over that to try and figure that out. So there's feedback. I kind of regularly get on calls with clients and I say, especially if their client's unhappy, because there are clients that can be unhappy, right? And I say, feedback makes us better. We want to hear it. We don't want someone to be sort of over in a corner, unhappy that those people never do what I ask. Be direct, be professional. Let us know when we're not meeting your bar. And we'll be the same with you. We'll be direct, we'll be professional. I had a recent interaction with a client where I said, for the last 5 years, you've never been treated with anything other than respect and care. And that's important to us.
Yeah. I bet you that changes the dynamics of the relationship completely.
I like to think it does. Sometimes you just have to point out to people that people often don't know how they come across, right?
Yeah.
If they're focused on one thing, and that's how they build these amazing companies. But it's also important to, I do think it's our job to kind of coach people as they grow for themselves, to grow professionally. It's important as their CFO or their CPO to be able to point out to them that maybe their style is not going to be successful for them in the long run. Maybe they could just, fine tune it around the edges.
It sounds like a new revenue stream, coaching, in addition to all the other wonderful things that you guys are doing there. So one last question. Do you think the employee experience plays into the broader growth picture? And how do you build that team culture mindset around strong client communication? I think you talked a little bit about this earlier when you talked about the values and how that's embedded into the company culture, but is there any additional kind of nuggets that you could share?
Well, there's no question. I mean, obviously, any organization that's growing has challenges on maintaining that culture. And I do worry about that sometimes, that as we grow, that maybe it isn't coming through to the new employees as well as I would like it to. Like, we feel we do a decent job on orientation and on training and discussing what it's like to be part of a team, but so much harder now when it's remote, when somebody never actually gets to see somebody face to face. And we, so I do worry about that. So how do we address that? I mean, we do try to, again, set the tone in every interaction. Every person here wants to serve the clients, and to make sure that that's sort of our underlying DNA. Listen, if an employee's not happy, they can move and go somewhere else. So we want our employees to be happy. We want them to feel supported. We want them to feel they're coming into a respectful work environment. And retention for us is really important, because not just client retention, but employee retention, because in what we do, it isn't that every day you can learn it again. Having a history on the account is really important to continue to be successful on the account. So we really want people to be here for the longer term.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Well, thanks for giving us a peek behind the scenes at Countsy. It's been great speaking with you, Mairtini.
Thanks a lot, Jazz. Really nice to meet you and to chat with you guys. And we love Front.